Music, horror, art, politics, badassery. Welcome to Society 13.
Welcome to Prog-Watch with your one and only host who is the most, Prog-Watch.
Okay, welcome back. This is the 8th episode of Prog-Watch. And once again, I have my friend Dave Luddig in the co-host chair.
Good evening, Tom.
Good evening, Dave.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. That's what my buddy Nelson says when he reads his horror stories on his podcast, which if you like horror, go check it out. It's called The Wicked Library, and I actually did the theme music for it. So, yeah, if you're into such things, he finds some interesting stories and reads them on his podcast.
A shameless plug for Tony and his composition skills.
Yes, and for my buddy Nelson, who is a fantastic vocalist, an author, has written a book. Dave's also an author here. We'll have to see if we can't...
Yeah, I've been published a couple stories. Working on the book now, so hopefully one of these days I will be all over CNN's art section.
Well, you'll hear it here first on Prog-Watch, huh?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, of course.
The book signing will take place right here, Tom.
All right, great. So anyway, the show's doing pretty well. I'm pretty excited about it, and I'm working on some new projects. I'm currently trying to work up some visuals to go along with the show and launch a YouTube channel. So you might look for that in the future. And if you are listening, you could do me a favor. It could help me improve the show down the road. If you're listening and you like it, please go to the Facebook page Prog-Watch and give me a like. Show me a little love for your big hairy squatch buddy here who's digging in the dirt to find you the best prog. So anyway, this week we have another really great band concept kind of thing that's been kicking around since the early 90s. So like we did last time with IQ, we're going to split it into 2 episodes. And we have this week, we have Ayreon, Ayreon. You want to?
It's amazing this guy has not been heard of more. And
I agree.
It's just, he's phenomenal. And I guess I got to be careful in saying that. On his own Facebook page, he's got almost 110,000 likes. So if some of you are listening to him, you need to get the word out more. It's just phenomenal music he's putting out.
I agree 100%. That's why I was really excited when we got permission to do this, and I decided to do it as a 2-parter because I don't want to try to cover all this great music. He's got a number of CDs that are even double CDs, and a lot of his work is also like concept album kind of stuff.
Yeah, they call them rock metal operas, kind of in the vein of, he says, I believe on his own website, Jesus Christ Superstar,
yes.
Andrew Lloyd Webber, The Who, of course, Tommy. He doesn't mention, but Queensryche, Operation Mindcrime. I hear a lot of that type of music throughout all of this, which is just solid headbanging, mellow headphone,
electronic, acoustic.
Right.
Yeah, it runs the gamut. It's got everything. It's really, really good stuff, and it's one of the things I love about it. But we don't want to tip our hat too much. We'd probably like to give you a little preliminaries, and we'll save some of the analysis for later.
That's a good point, Tom.
So anyway, the band is called Ayreon, Ayreon, but it's basically the brainchild of a Dutch guitarist, writer, composer by the name of Arjen Anthony Lucassen. And this guy, in my opinion, is a genius. And like Dave said, if we can help to get him more listens and more listeners, I'll feel really good about it, because this guy deserves a lot of credit. I mean, it's fantastic.
You took the words out of my mouth. He does deserve it. It's a shame that myself, I'm just discovering him now thanks to you, that the guy needs to be in, obviously we're not over on the other side of the Atlantic with a lot of our listeners in Europe. It's just a shame here in the States that we don't get a lot of this good stuff you guys are putting out, which is another reason why Tony's doing the show.
Right. But anyway, he's basically the driving force behind all these albums. It's his concepts, his basic like storylines, which a lot of them deal with like fantasy, sci-fi kind of themes. And he gets just a boatload of really great musicians and singers who are just lining up to be on his projects. It's amazing to me when you look down the list of vocalists. I printed 3 pages of vocalists who have sung on Ayreon albums. It's pretty solid. Well, 2.5 at least.
It's like an all-star of who's who in rock and metal.
I mean, we got Andy Darris from Halloween, Barry Hay from Golden Earring, Bob Catley from Magnum and Hard Rain, Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden, Damian Wilson, who's sung with Rick Wakeman, Threshold, and Landmark, Devin Townsend, who's another guy I'm meaning to check out because I hear his name bandied around a lot in the prog circles, Fish from Marillion, Heather Finley from Mostly Autumn, James Labrie from Dream Theater, John Wetton, of course, Asia and King Crimson, and Ty Tabor from King's X, Jelly Jam, Platypus. I love Ty's stuff. And Russell Allen from Symphony X. That's another band that I've listened to, and I like them. They're on the like symphonic progressive metal kind of side. But like I said, this is just some of the highlights of the vocalists who have sung with him. Ones that I pulled out as noteworthy.
Right, and I got to get a little plug in there for Christina Scabia from Kuna Coil. Really, really love this band. You guys need to check them out too.
Okay, that's one I'm not really familiar with, so I kind of breezed by. But anyway, the first Ayreon album was called The Final Experiment and was released in like 1995. And from that album, we're going to feature our first track, which is called Sail Away to Avalon.
Shining armor, knights of the table round, go out and ride like thunder across the sky at the speed of sound. The horn, blow the trumpets upon the castle wall. Now the quest has started. Listen to the prophet's call. The prophet's call. Yeah, yeah. Sail away to Avalon. The journey has begun. Sail away and never die. The gods are at your side.
once again, that was Sail Away to Avalon by Ayreon from the Final Experiment album in 1995. Dave, what do you
It's
got?
one of the shorter pieces. It's a shade over 4 minutes long. Almost kind of reminded me a little bit of a Mannheim Steamroller opener. But it's a little short, catchy song that when you listen to the album, I don't think it's real indicative of the rest of the album that he's putting out. Some of the longer pieces, like Banishment, happen to be my personal favorite, as well as the closer, or not the closer, but Listen to the Waves. I like my metal, progressive metal, I should say, lengthy. 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes long, and I think that gives a band an ample opportunity to explore the thematic elements they're trying to convey.
Okay, well, I don't know that I consider. I mean, I guess you're going to consider it progressive metal in some way, but I think it's more of a blend of. I think it's more than that, actually. You called it symphonic or progressive metal. I think it's symphonic prog in places. It's electronic. It's almost orchestral, and as I said, symphonic. But I mean, these are all the elements in this track that I really love about Ayreon. I mean, like I said, you're hearing horns and violin kind of things, and then you're hearing kick-ass guitar, and there's a little bit of electronics and stuff in there. There's choirs.
Do you think, Tone, that there's a little bit too much of variety? Instead
of
focusing on a couple really good things and doing them well, rather than having trying to blend in all these ingredients.
I think that's one of the things that I think he pulls off well, and I like it. I like to hear. I get tired of just guitar bands,
Well,
I get
as a
tired
guitarist,
of it.
I'm insulted.
Well, I started on guitar myself too, but I mean, like, your brother's the one that really got me going when he introduced me to Emerson, Lake and Palmer, because before that, I wouldn't even listen to a band that didn't have a guitar in it. And I know Lake played some guitar on their albums, but as far as like here's your band, a drummer, a bass player, and a keyboard player, that was just like forget it to me. I couldn't even think about it. But now I really like more of a balance. Even some of the progressive metal that I like, if it's just guitars, I don't know. I get tired of saying G all the time. I want to hear. I like when they also include elements of keyboards, because there's a whole world of sounds on keyboards, and when they integrate it well with the heavy guitar, that's what turns me on.
Well, one of the things that might have been a little bit unfair to me to put out that he's trying to do too much. I don't think he's trying to do too much. He's showing what he's capable of and trying to make it fit into the framework of his story. And let's keep in mind, this was the first one. Those elements, I think, come together much better in the later albums that we'll be discussing shortly, and in part 2.
I like to cover every album when possible. At least, give a nod of the head just so you can hear where.
So in this one, maybe he's working out the rough edges. And it's funny, a little play on his name, Lucassen, big American filmmaker named George Lucas, does everything himself too. And Aaron does everything himself as well too, for the most part.
Yeah.
All the guitars, the bass. I mean, he's got some guest.
Yeah, he does have guest
stars. But I agree. There's nothing like a good control freak when you're trying to do the right things.
Kind of like me with Prog-Watch.
Hey, you're a little bit
I'm not that bad, am I?
No, you're not bad at all. But anyways, it's a really, really, for a first album, and we really shouldn't say it's a first album. On his website, he does have other projects. Right.
That's something we wanted to talk about. Is this is just one project. He's been in other bands. I think he's been in a band called Vengeance, and he's put stuff out under his own name.
Yeah.
Which I have never even heard any of that, and I think I should really hunt it down. But there's so much prog and so little time.
Yeah, you Europeans think us guys in the States are way behind the times, and we are. So you need to do more to help us out to get us more modern with you guys.
All right, but yeah, like I said, I think this track had a lot of neat elements, and when I first heard this kind of stuff and I started listening to this guy, I was really impressed with how he does integrate so many different elements of different kinds of music, which I like them all. I mean, this had choirs and horns and electronics and electric guitar, and you had flute, and I like it.
It does. A lot of it I agree to. A lot of it does work. There were places I thought it was a little bit rough around the edges, but he rounded those edges off much better in the later albums that we'll be eventually covering.
So I guess we'll move on to the next album, which was called Actual Fantasy. And actually, this is one of the only ones that doesn't have an actual story. They all have storylines that are it's the whole thing hangs together as a thematic story. It's telling a story. There's different vocalists who are singing different characters on some of the albums. This is one that didn't really have an overarching story, but all of the themes of the songs seem to center on fantasy. So anyway, we're gonna go ahead and play this cut called "Beyond the Last Horizon" from Ayreon's album "Actual Fantasy" in 1996.
Virtual reality, actual fantasy. Until he came to a road that disappeared. and see it vanished in the brightness of infinity. And so he gathered all his strength not to descend into the valley of death.
All right, once again, Beyond the Last Horizon from Ayreon's 1996 album Actual Fantasy.
If you just listen to this song, you're going to go, wow, this is a really, really good song.
I love this song.
I really enjoyed it a lot, too. The problem I had with the song is the three before it just blew my mind away. They're long, they're lengthy, they're everything that Tony just said a few minutes ago he really didn't like a lot. They're good rockers. The thematic elements of the music are explored. They're like 8-9 minutes long. And the thing that I find most interesting, I love this album, Tony.
Yeah.
But when you read about it on the various websites, it apparently didn't sell well, which is amazing to me, because this I thought was way better than the other one. Yeah, and again, I enjoyed the other one, but this was a couple steps above the other one.
It was cut above.
And this, I thought he really brought at least the rocking elements together a lot tighter in this one.
I was crazy about. I think that this chorus is super catchy. It just, first time I heard this song, it pulled me right in, and I was just like, yeah, this is the song I'm going to listen to over and over. This is going to be one of my favorite songs. I could just tell from the first time I listened to it. I really liked the way, it has all these different elements. There's an electronic intro. Then you got acoustic guitars. Then you got like some more electronics with acoustic guitars. It's like a nice juxtaposition. It works. And then you kick into the main section with those like heavier vocals and the heavier guitars and drums. But then when he kicks into that chorus, it all comes home for me. That's why I selected this above other cuts on this album, because I think this is a catchy ass song that could have been a hit, somewhere.
Oh, I agree. He's got some stuff on there that definitely is commercially viable.
I think it is.
On his website, he has videos, and I didn't have a chance to view them. Busy holiday week here in the States for us lazy people. But if he's got video, there's a lot of stuff on there, on all of them, that have all the elements, Tony, you just described, that would make, and the length is fairly reasonable too, that would make a very, very viable marketing tool, a video for the selling of a lot of his music.
Right. Yeah, like I said, I was just crazy about this song, the chorus especially. Even as it goes on, of course, he adds like these like ethereal answering vocals that are answering the main part of the melody line in the chorus. I think it's just fantastic. I love it.
Again, I really enjoyed it too. I just happen to like the three prior ones better. They really rocked out a lot for me. The length, of course, I love longer songs. I'm a little bit biased on that. And even though this was not a conceptual album per se, as a storyline, I just love the way the album closed as well too. A very kind of like when you go to the show, you expect a big, tremendous,
climax.
William Tell Overture, big finale, and he delivers on this one.
Yeah. And again, throughout the album, there's all kinds of interesting, fantasy type themes going on. This one, you had kings and knights and horses and swords and battles and all this kind of stuff, and going out beyond the last horizon. It's.
Speaking of the lyrics, one of the things he says, and Tony, you covered it earlier about the combining sci-fi with fantasy types. His sci-fi stuff is not just like casual sci-fi. I mean, you can tell, as we'll cover on the final album we'll do. I mean, he really put some thought into this stuff. This is not just mindless sci-fi. He thought these things. We'll talk about it when we get to the
universal migrator. Right? Yeah.
This isn't just typical, spaceships and blah blah time travel. There are some really interesting concepts he brought up that philosophers could probably sit down and mull over for a while.
Okay. Yes, and on that note, I think we'll move on and try to get into these last couple albums. The next album we're going to sample is called Into the Electric Castle from 1998. And it, again, this one has a definite storyline running through it. The cut we're going to play is called The Decision Tree, We're Alive, in parentheses. And we'll let it rip now. Okay, once again, Decision Tree, in parentheses, We're Alive, from Into the Electric Castle from 1998.
Double album, Tone.
Double album.
Which means there's a lot of great selections
There
on
is
here.
a lot of great music.
Tony and I could probably argue for 30 minutes on what we think are the merits of the best songs. As usual, you probably figured out I'm going to go for the longer favorites on this one. The first, I shouldn't say the first two, the second and third song, Isis and Osiris, An Amazing Flight. I just have wonderful four-letter words, adjectives to say about them. They rock out, they're lengthy, they're 10, 11 minutes long.
This is one of the
great
reasons why we
lyrics.
kind of didn't do some of them. I mean, we only have so much time on a show, even though we're spreading this into 2 shows.
Great lyrics. The song you just heard, relatively short compared to the 2 I just mentioned, 6 minutes. It's still
Right.
longer, and it does tone. It definitely has a commercial pop music
again,
type feel.
Catchy as all hell. I mean, it could be a hit, I would think, in some alternate reality, which is kind of what the whole thing is about. The storyline revolves around 8 characters from different periods of time who are like thrown into this timeless dimension and, faced all these perils. And one of the guys is a Highlander, and that part is sung by Fish, and that's one of the reasons I really like this song also, aside from the fact that it's catchy as hell. I love Fish, I love Marillion, and it's cool. I thought it was a nice tie-in, just to show you the caliber of people that line up to be on this guy's albums.
Sure.
And
I'm not averse to commercial pop music, so don't misunderstand or misinterpret
I don't think
me.
it's pop, but it's catchy.
It has a pop feel to it.
But there's still
But
all
that's
the
okay.
prog elements are
But
in
that's
it,
okay.
and the prog metal
Right.
elements are in there.
There's nothing wrong. I mean, even some of my, the old bands that we grew up with in the 70s, yes, has their roundabout. Yeah, I've seen all good people. There's nothing wrong with good commercialized pop tunes. Does it work in the context of the album? In this case, I think it does.
Okay.
And that's just, that was from the first album.
Yeah, the first disc of the
First disc.
Electric Castle.
The second disc also, again, my favorites are going to be the longer ones for the Garden of Emotion. It kicks off the album. The only criticism I might have of the album, a double album, rock opera, like I was explaining about the last one, where that big finale.
Okay.
I thought the finale on here was a little bit weak, and after a double album of a really good, intense story, I thought the finale should have been a little bit more grander. But that's just my
Okay.
own humble opinion.
But again, this song had all the things I like, starting off with electronics and then that narration that's kind of related to the story. And then you kick in, you got some nice guitars, and, Arjen Lucassen definitely has chops. This guy can play.
Yeah, and that's I was just going to ask Tony what his opinions were, because I know mine are. He doesn't sound like anybody. You obviously had to have been influenced by all these great prog bands, that we grew up with as well, Tone. But it's hard. You maybe catch a few seconds here and there, but it's not like in some of the other bands, at least that I was doing with
You could tell, yeah.
It took them a while to find their sound.
Right.
He's got his sound on album 1.
Yeah.
He doesn't sound like anybody else. You might hear a little bit of this and that and this and that, but it's only for a brief time, and you're going to hear that from anybody.
Yeah.
He's got his own sound.
He's tasty. He's tasty as all hell.
He's cool, and he even talks about on his website the artists that he does get. Tony's been going on and on about all these great people on him, and he says he's interested in people who want to work on his projects and find them as exciting as he does. If they're just interested in collecting a paycheck, he doesn't want them. And I got to tip my hat to that, because who knows who else he did contact or contacted him looking for that paycheck, and he might have had to turn him away, even though he thought, wow, you're one of my idols, and I got to turn you away because you're just looking to get some money here and make a couple dollars instead of really throwing yourself into the project.
Yeah, that's what I've run into that, and well, I'm a musician too, and in my own projects, my last project, I kind of had that same thing going on, where I'm going one way and somebody else is going the other way, and if you can't be 100% to what I'm doing, I actually thought that in my last band we could have done this kind of music that Ayreon is doing.
Yeah.
If
the guitar player, he's really good.
If the guitar player was a little more willing to meet me in the middle, I I think we could have done this kind of stuff. But this is all.
Lucassen's a brilliant guitar player.
Yeah, he is.
That's going to really, really come to life on the next one, Tim, on the Migrator album.
Yeah, but again, you had some interesting themes in this song. Any song where you mention Thor, I mean, there's battles and honor and pride and glory and all this kind of stuff.
It's a mythology element.
Yeah, yeah.
And one of the things that in fact, it helped me when I was a kid, it actually, I think, in a very indirect, subtle way, promotes education. Because when you're talking about these elements, it makes the kids anyways, well, who are these characters he's talking about?
Exactly.
And run to the libraries, run to the bookstores, and find out
go
who
online
they are.
these days.
Learn
Look
about
it up.
mythology.
Go to
exactly.
Google.
Learn about history. Learn about folklore. Especially in Europe, it's so rich. And that's another thing, I think, one of the reasons why my favorite bands have always come there, because they have thousands of years of it in their DNA. In America, we've only got like a couple hundred years. We're relatively infants, and that's why I don't think we hear a lot of good bands come out, prog bands come out of it. And I might be totally an idiot in saying that, but I think when you got that history, when you walk into a building or a city,
or go see a castle that's been standing there for 1,000 years. Yeah.
How do you not be influenced by that?
Yeah. How do you not? Yeah. Exactly. That's why I always was talking. One of my dream places to visit is England, just because. I mean, you can go there and see pieces of the Roman wall. You can go see castles that have been standing on the side of some lock for 1,000
And that's
years.
another good thing Lucassen does really well. He brings that to life. I mean, you can, when you listen to his music, it will take you there. It takes you to those eras. This is where, again, as I might have been a little bit critical on the first album, where too much going on. These are where all those elements combine effectively, perfectly into what I think his overall concept was at the outset when he first started.
Yeah, it's a good album. It's solid. Through and through.
Solid is an understatement. It's a really, really good album.
Yeah, we highly recommend it. But we're going to move on to the last album that we're going to touch on this time, which is, it was actually a 2-disc set again, called the Universal Migrator Part 1 and 2, from the year 2000. And the first, the only song we're going to play today from that album is called My House on Mars, and we'll roll it now.
You put me in this world of rock and dust. No friends for playing games, no foes who scorn my name. Computerized machines of steel and rust. This is my home. This is our home. This is our home. These guys
Once again, that was My House on Mars from the Universal Migrator Part 1, which is subtitled The Dream Sequencer.
This was an interesting album and concept that he put together, Tone, where on one it was more progressive.
Yeah,
The
more
second
electronic
album,
and a little
right.
mellower and progressive.
And the second one was more...
Kick you in the face.
Right. The storyline is phenomenal. This goes back to what I said a few minutes ago about the sci-fi elements.
Yeah, this one was, you had all this, in this song in particular, there was a lot of...
He really put some thought into this.
Yeah, the guy lamenting, he's lonely, he's living on Mars, never going to see Earth.
It's after a war that pretty much wiped out the human race. And he was one of the first, he was born on Mars. He will never see Earth.
Never see Earth.
And it takes off from there. The technology he's developed for his characters is phenomenal. The music on this first one, the Dream Sequencer, it's very mellow, very low-key throughout the entire album. Whereas the second, part 2,
right.
is, like Tony said, it's kick-ass, it's in your face. I think it would have been better to combine both of them into one, but from what I understand and reading about it online, he thought this would appeal to his progressive fans, and then the other album would be for his metal fans. And he said, much to his surprise, everybody bought both.
Yeah.
And I wondered in retrospect if Lucassen would have decided to, maybe give you a change of pace and throw a little bit more rock and stuff on the Dream Sequencer, a little bit more prog stuff. Just to, like I say, to break up the pace once.
Maybe him and Steven Wilson from Porcupine Tree can remaster it and reformat it. Yeah, Steven Wilson's been doing all kinds of remasters.
But the lyrics would be difficult to do because the lyrics, again, it's a linear story.
It is, yeah. That would be the big problem. You couldn't really just start interspersing the songs because it does tell a story.
As for the music itself, Tony, I thought this was the best of everything he did leading up to now, and I thought this was a perfect 10. From top to bottom, the song that you played is pretty much indicative of what you'll hear on the Dream Sequencer one. Yeah. There's a couple cuts, track 7A, Temple with a Cat, for example.
Yeah, I thought about doing that one.
Commercial.
Yeah. That was actually a single. I did see that in passing.
Did not know that. Carried by the Wind, the one right after that also. And again, a short, kind of like a poppy type song that would have worked well. But overall, what you heard is going to be indicative of primarily, I think, musically, what the album is. You guys are into lyrics. I'm not a big lyric guy, but lyrically, this album just works. The lyrics itself drew me in, not just the music. Yeah.
But again, like Dave was saying, it's got all the elements again, and this track more or less shows it. Moody electronics. You got like a deeper, more. How do I want to say, like sorrowful kind of male lead vocal
very melancholy.
Yeah, melancholy. Yeah, good word.
Very melancholy type.
And you have the female voices on the choruses, which are kind of a nice juxtaposition.
It's definitely good headphones music.
Yeah.
The type of stuff that I would put on coming home at 3 a.m. somewhere on the dark roads, just to relax before I come on home. The second album, there were a couple really good songs that stood out on that, tracks 4 and 8. To the Quasar is track 4. To the Solar System is track 8. Those two, Tone, were my favorites on the more rockin' album.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, back to the cut we just played, My House on Mars. I really liked the middle where you had like horns and choirs, and there was this nice... he was playing some really nice kind of clean electric lead lines with a delay, and I thought it really worked.
It's really good you brought that up because that was one of the highlights of it. For as brilliant of a guitar player as, and this goes back to what I would say on other shows, what you don't play is just as important as what you do.
Don't overplay. What he's playing is nice.
His guitar playing on this entire album, let alone this particular song, is very, very low key. And what he does play, you brought up again, Tone, it's just the effects that are used on it. It's a very simple line. Yeah. Very simple music. But with the effects and with the mood, it just creates an ambience that, like I said, it just pulled me right in.
The sum is greater than the parts.
And then when you find out just, again, what he can, how technically brilliant he is. Sometimes to rein it in is more difficult than it is to cut loose when you're that brilliant. And Tony said it, you said it earlier, Tony. I do agree. It's not a word I would use lately. Musical genius.
Yeah, he's got chops. Yeah.
110,000 likes on his Facebook page. That's a lot. So get your butts over to Facebook and like it. Get that number up.
While if you're listening to this while you're on Facebook, like Prog-Watch.
Yeah, get some plugs in there for Tony too.
Give us the like on Prog-Watch.
Because actually it'll help out a lot of these bands that either you are already into or are getting into. It'll get them more exposure.
Right.
Also check out his website.
Right, it's a great website.
It's very, very professionally done. It has a store on it. You can buy stuff, an e-newsletter, videos, fan art. You can contribute yourself, those of you with artistic backgrounds.
Yeah. Go check that out. And if you can't find any of these CDs in your local shops, you can always buy them there.
Get them there.
And I would highly recommend pretty much any of the albums we've played tonight. The first one,
the first one
maybe not so much. Maybe save that one for down the road if you want to get into this guy. But, you can start in with Universal Migrators or into the Electric Castle.
Yeah, just like any band, I guess, Tony. You'd always start off with what you would think would be the best. But when you get into the other stuff, like I say, it is just mind-boggling. Even the first one, I'd be proud to call that my work.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he exceeded it every time.
And we did kind of briefly mention, we talked about all the different vocalists that have been on his albums. He's had some pretty heavy hitters guest musically as well, like Michael Romeo from Symphony X on guitar. Steve Hackett from Genesis played on one of his albums. Barry Hay from Golden Earring played flute, and Thies Van Leer from Focus. You gotta love the old Focus stuff. And then on keys, harpsichords, all that kind of stuff, Clive Nolan, who's also an Arena and has worked with Wakeman's son, Oliver. And Eric Norlander from Rocket Scientist. He's a great keyboard player, too. And then you have Keith Emerson has been a guest. Ken Hensley from Uriah Heep. Martin Orford from IQ. And Rick Wakeman, once again. These guys have all been guests on Ayreon albums.
And yet, when you listen to them, although your ear will pick up, oh, that sounds like so-and-so. Maybe it does, but keep in mind that they're working in the confines that Lucassen has set up for them.
They're contributing
and it's
to the overall.
Lucassen's music.
Yeah.
It's not like you're listening to, or you're buying it for Keith Emerson or Steve Hackett. You're buying it for Lucassen's genius. And
I just thought it was interesting. Just like I said, lots of heavy hitters that played with this guy.
Yeah, I always used to tell people, with movies, if you never heard of a movie, look to see who's in it. If you like that person, it's going to be a good movie, and if it's not, at least you'll enjoy the performance. Well, you can do the same thing with this guy. You can look and see who's playing on it and think, wow, even if I never heard a note of this guy, it's worth me checking out when you got a resume with these types of people backing you up.
Well, I guess that's going to do it. We are pretty much out of time here. So once again, you can always email me or drop me a line on the Facebook page, Prog-Watch with a hyphen, or my email is bigsquatch@verizon.net.
Please drop us a line, Tony. Really would love some feedback. Again, we're looking to make the show better.
We're trying to make it better.
You.
Yep. Like I said, we've got plans in the works. We're working on some new angles, and we'll definitely let you know when those things are on the horizon.
Yeah, drop us a line. Let us know where you're from. See if you can spread the word. And for today's guest artist, again, don't forget to go to their page and like them. Check out their website. Spread the word on this guy. He needs to be heard.
He is good. Yep. All right, so I guess that'll do it, and we'll just say keep progging.
Thanks a lot for having me again, Tom.
All right, it's been a pleasure. I guess that wasn't it. I actually have a PS. As we said before, this is part 1 of our Ayreon coverage here. So if you like it, look for part 2 coming in a few weeks.
Looking forward to it, Tom.
Same here. We'll see you.